Senator Warner of Virginia is recognized from his office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate you holding this hearing, Mr. Steves. My friend Senator Daines just raised this issue, and I know others have as well. I think it's critically important from a competitive standpoint, national security standpoint, that we go ahead and pass the CHIPS legislation. I think almost all of our colleagues understand that we need to have those fabrication facilities built here in America, that candidly we are not producing any of the leading edge chips. And as we get below 10 nanometers into even smaller and smaller, to be dependent upon Taiwan is not smart. I think sometimes we forgot, though, that what started this whole debate, and I say this as a former telecom guy, was when we were a little bit asleep at the switch and China crept up in the 5G domain and managed to set the standards, the rules, the protocols, come forward with a company like Huawei that was extraordinarily important. And I just want to remind my colleagues, and I hope you realize, Mr. Steves, that in addition to the $52 billion around chips, there's $1.5 billion for investment in the USA Telecom Act that was also included in this legislation that makes sure that we make the investments in not only 5G, but the next generation beyond 5G and wireless communications, open radio access network. Can you talk about what you guys are doing on the BIS tools to make sure that we are looking at beyond 5G technology to make sure that we reclaim some of that leadership we need?
Thank you for that, Senator. This morning I was listening to NPR and they used a Wayne Gretzky quote about skating where the puck is going rather than where the puck is. And we need to be doing that, and we are. So it's not just what technologies are there today that would need protection. We need to look out and say what's coming down the pike and what should we be thinking about the protections on that. And when I've been talking to companies, that's exactly what I'm talking to them about. And it's also what I'm talking to my defense colleagues about.
Well, I do think, again, I think any even big or slim chips-related bill, I know everybody's agreed with the USA Telecom piece, the 5G and O-RAN needs to be a part of that, but appreciate that. I want to go back again towards the CHIPS piece and some of the Huawei entity designation list. I'm really concerned, and a number of our kind of in the memory space, a lot of our domestic manufacturers have complained to me about a Chinese memory manufacturer, YMTC. Financial Times just did a major expose on this, that YMTC was providing components, parts to Huawei. You may not be able to talk about all of the specifics of this case, but I have urged the Commerce Department to look very carefully at YMTC's activities. I think they are typical of a lot of the new Chinese memory and chip-related firms. How do you make sure we are, whatever you can say about YMTC specifically would be great, but if you can also just generally talk about how you're investigating potential violations of the Huawei entity list, and how do we make sure we maintain the integrity of our enforcement actions to make sure that these tools have got real teeth?
Yep. Thank you for that. So, and again, I cannot talk about YMTC in particular or NDND, which may or may not be being under investigation. However, what we would do, regardless of where the allegation or the information came from, but certainly we would look at multi-sources, including information provided by the intelligence community. We would do a supply chain assessment to see how they're flowing and who they're flowing with, what companies they're doing business with, and how that occurred. We would work that, again, with not just BIS enforcement arm, but with other agencies. And when we find sufficient data, we would move to put them on the list. And again, it's all source data that we need to work on. If we find violations, we will put companies on the list.
Well, there are a number of members. I think American companies have raised this concern. I think YMTC deserves that investigation, and I believe at the end of the day designation. But I appreciate your answers, sir, and I appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator. Senator Tillis from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Estevez, thank you for being here. I was happy to support your confirmation. You know, when I come to this hearing, I